All right, everyone, lesson 8.7, solving quadratics by square roots. So here's a do now slide where everyone should answer these questions. You should know your perfect squares. You should know how to find square roots. Square root of 36 is 6, right? Square root of 121 is 11. Square root of negative square root of 625 is actually negative 25 because that negative sign gets applied after you do the square root. Square root of a fraction, all you do is you do the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. So this becomes 2 over 5. Now, actually, these four problems are all missing some answers. Okay? Everyone knows the square root of 36 is 6, but with what very few people also recognize and remember is that the square root of 36 is not just 6. There's also another answer to that. It's also negative 6. Yeah, everyone forgets about that one. Because what is the square root? Well, the square root is, whatever the result of the square root is if you take that number and you square it, you get back the number under the radical, right? So 6 squared is 36. But there's another number that if you square it, it's also 36, and that's negative 6. So the square root of 36 is actually two answers. And the way we represent these two answers is by writing a plus minus symbol. Plus minus 6 represents both answers to the square root of 36. It's the positive 6 as well as the negative 6. Those are both correct answers to the square root of 36. And that goes for all these examples. And that's a very key distinction that we have to remember when we do this lesson. Okay, and that's what this whole first slide says. Square root of 9 is 3, right? Square root of 9 is 3. It's also negative 3. So the way you write that is right here with a plus minus symbol, okay, to represent both square roots of 9. You'd write plus and minus 3. Okay? So this example right here, square root of x squared equals 169. To solve this, you square root both sides. So the square root of 169 is 13, but you have to remember to put a plus minus symbol with it because the square root of 169 is not just 13, it's also negative 13. Okay? That is what this says right here. Use the plus minus symbol to show both square roots. Okay? This slide. All right, this one's a little tricky. When you square root both sides, square root of x squared is just x. Square root of negative 49 is actually not possible. Okay, you cannot square root a negative number. So this has no solution. You could check that in your calculator. Type in the square root of negative 49. You'll get an error. That's an error. If the negative sign were outside of the radical, that's okay. You'll get a negative 7 when you do that. Because the square root of 49 is 7, and then the negative sign gets applied after you do the radical. But if the negative sign is under the radical, that's impossible. You cannot square root a negative number. Okay? So the answer to this one is actually no solution. So that's a tricky one that's going to show up from time to time that you have to remember. Example B, you would square root both sides. Square root of 121 is okay. Your answer should be plus minus 11. All right, and then this last one here on this slide, square root of both sides. Square root of 0 is just 0. There's no need to put a plus minus symbol for 0. So 0 is not positive nor negative, it's just 0. All right.